In the world now, to see a pit of that grade and that volume of ounces, those are really not your everyday kind of thing. But we go up to Los Ricos North and we can talk about something called exploration potential. There's approaching 50 targets up there. We had up to, it was about 30 meters of over 700 grams silver equivalent. Really quite spectacular.
Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. First of all, thanks so much for watching this video. If you like it, give us a thumbs up. That helps us to understand if this is the sort of video that you'd like us to be filming for you. You can also leave your comments below. That helps us with these sorts of questions you think we should be asking, how you think we're doing, and of course, what you thought of GoGold. You can also catch this as a podcast, a transcription, or an article on cruxinvestor.com. And of course, for our Crux Investor Club members, you get to see this video first. If you haven't already done so, please click the button in the corner of the screen to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And of course, for more videos like this one, click the notification bell. We caught up quickly today with Brad Langille, who's the CEO of GoGold. We'd spoken to him a couple of weeks ago and sort of went through his project, Los Ricos project. It's a good, solid project. They put out some numbers last week, which reinforce that message. So, about 60% silver, 40% gold, solid grades, solid widths. And if you look at the share price today, I think the market would agree. However, we were excited about their Los Ricos North project and the potential there of not only finding more silver and gold there, but joining up the dots, as it were, the north and the south. The initial drill results came out yesterday, as good as we had hoped for. We've just done a company report on this, so our analysts were intrigued to see what would come out, and we weren't disappointed. So take a look in the description below at some of the topics we quickly romp our way through. Anything interesting in particular, you can click on the number beside that topic. I'll jump to that part of the video. Otherwise, sit back and enjoy what is a relatively short, brief, and concise conversation with Brad on the numbers. Brad, how you doing, sir?
Good. Good morning. Good afternoon, I guess, for you.
Yeah.
Chihuahua, Mexico.
I love Chihuahua, Mexico. It just sounds so much fun already. But is it hot down there?
It's in the mid-30s, yeah. It's pretty hot here in the summer.
Okay, and I actually get to say the same thing. It's in the mid-30s here in the UK. I never thought I'd get to say that,
wow.
But there you go, right?
Wow.
So you've got AC and I
wow.
haven't. Well, I'll keep this. I know you're busy in the middle of something, but I do appreciate you picking up the phone and taking our call. We spoke just a few weeks ago about what was going on at Los Ricos South, and we noticed two press releases. One was on that, on Los Ricos South, but I'm slightly more excited about some of the drill results, which just came out a couple of days ago with regards to Los Ricos North. So let's do that in sequence. So talk us through the mineral resource estimate that came out of Los Ricos South, first of all.
Yeah, no, it was really kind of what was anticipated by us. We're always modeling as we go along and we drill here. So we have a pretty good idea, and then we hand it off to the third party consultant. And, they'll do things a little bit different sometimes as far as, where they cap the high grades or, how far they extend the high grades and things like that, which are just little differences. But we had the number that we were expecting, and that's the great news. So we're always trying to deliver on what we think we're going to, what we're seeing, and we try to keep all our investors informed of how it's going and what we're seeing. And this one certainly doesn't disappoint. It turned out great.
So remind me of some of the numbers there, if you don't mind.
Sure. So we categorize things as measured and indicated and inferred resources, and measured and indicated, just for some of your viewers, what that means is that's your highest level of certainty, highest confidence in the number, measured being the most and indicated being a little bit down from that. And then we have inferred, which would be your lowest confidence in the number. But this deposit turned out to be, well drilled, in that we had, for a maiden resource, we had a lot of measured and indicated. In fact, we had, in silver equivalents, we had over 63 million ounces of silver equivalent at a grade of 197 grams for the measured and indicated. That would fall within the constraints of a pit. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for something here that is bulk mineable. And then we had another 20 million ounces of inferred silver.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty big number. We're talking about, plus 84 million ounces of silver at, pretty good grade. So
yeah, I think the other thing to point out here is that really in the world now, to see a pit of that grade and that volume of ounces, those are really not your everyday kind of thing. They're more of a rarity. A lot of those have been mined out. This is primarily silver. This, we want to develop this into, it's going to be a silver mine. And why do we say it's silver? It's both gold and silver. It's more silver value than gold here, by about 60% silver and 40% gold. But for some reason, I still think in gold equivalents. And really here in the measured and indicated, we have over almost 2.3 grams of gold equivalent. And that's done at a ratio of 87 to 1. Before we talked about 75 to 1, and those ratios move around. But really, to have a pit that's over 2 grams gold equivalent is a real rarity. And this one will be, we think, is going to have some great economics as we move on to those studies now. And we're going to push to get a PEA done here, which is a preliminary economic assessment, to show the great economics this thing can have. Okay. And I'll just say one other thing that's really important here. I pointed out on other calls. What we see in what we think will be a pit here, we see a lot of high grade right up in the top of this pit, which could give a real quick payback. And we'll be looking at that in the economic study. And that's not going to be far down the road. We're working on that right now.
Remind everyone of the timing on that one.
Listen, we're going to shoot for the end of this year to get that preliminary economic assessment out there. But if we don't, it'll probably be because there's a very good thing that's happened, is that we've found more ounces and that we want to update that resource before we put that PEA out. And if that's the case, which is good news, then it would be the first quarter of 2021.
Okay, but you've got, at some point, you're going to have to put your flag in the sand and say, right, we got to stop this. We got to work out what we have here. Because like you say, it's a very, very reasonable pit already. So when's that drilling stopping?
We're still doing some drilling, and we did drilling after that cutoff date. So there are actually more ounces there. There were some great drill holes that didn't make it to the resource, especially in that area called Rascodero, where we're really starting to find another ore sheet. So we're still doing a little bit of drilling there, and but we're also doing things like metallurgy, which we have a high confidence level in, because on the metallurgy, we have years and years of records that show great metallurgical recovery. So we're doing that, and some geotechnical work that leads to that next study, that preliminary economic assessment, that'll tell us what's the net asset value, what's the internal rate of return, what's the potential cost per ounce. So those great economic numbers, which a lot of our retail and institutional investors are going to want to see, because they're going to want to start getting a net asset value on this. And I think it'll be quite surprising that the net asset value approaches or exceeds, as a company, some other companies out there that are trading at much, much higher market values than we are. So that's the great thing about this next study.
So to that point, and so following up from the last presentation where you kind of went through that chart of sort of satellite image for us, can we talk about the most recent press release? Because that's what got my analysts excited. Okay, the potential at Los Ricos North, trying to understand what it is that you've got there. You've just started this process, and then the potential of joining up the dots. It makes it go from a sort of reasonable size mine through to something which could be quite extraordinary. So if you can deliver it. So tell us a little bit about some of the numbers that with regards to the Los Ricos North drilling that has just come out.
Well, we think of Los Ricos as a district, and it spans over 35 kilometers. And what we've looked at so far in Los Ricos South is 3.2 kilometers. Mostly 1.1 kilometers is where that beautiful looking resource that we have that should be a pit is located. So then we look at Los Ricos South, and just for a moment, we'll talk about like the geological model in Los Ricos South. It is one big wide vein breccia that ranges from 10 meters to 45 meters wide. And in the past, they mined 2 to 6 meters of that. And they left behind what we have published here, which is beautiful. It's more or less one vein, and we've drilled that, and we're still drilling that. Now, let's move to Los Ricos North. And this is why I've always been so excited about Los Ricos North. And not to diminish Los Ricos South. We're doing great. I mean, close to the size of that resource. You don't see that every day in those grades. But we go up to Los Ricos North, and we can talk about something called exploration potential. It is actually a technical term under the 43101. And what you can't do with exploration potential is you can't apply a grade to it until you've drilled it. But we go up there and we map and we look and we say, wow, there's all these structures. There's all these targets. There's approaching 50 targets up there. And those targets, then we can look and say, well, they're this wide. And if they're this long, and some of them are literally, 5-10 kilometers long, then we can say there could be this many tons. Now, there's one thing left to do. This is the very exciting part. Just start drilling those tons and apply the grade to those tons, which that calculation, of course, comes out in the resource and what we've done in the south, and those are ounces. And what we're really, really so excited about in Los Ricos North is that the first area, we're looking at about a 6-kilometer strike length. There's many structures in there. They're wide, up to 50 meters wide. And on surface, we've been mapping those, and we've been getting samples, many, many samples above 5 grams gold equivalent. And we've actually started drilling. So we have been drilling up in the first target called Trini. Now, Trini had some historical drill holes, so that's why we started there first. And, we released a few days ago. We got it out. It was only 3 drill holes from the north that we had back from the lab, but they were pretty exciting. And we thought they were material to get that out there right away, because everybody's waiting for that first, showcase of a drill hole from the north. And we had up to, it was about 30 meters of over 700 grams silver equivalent in a drill hole. Really quite spectacular. And the other 2 drill holes were very wide, and they're both, approaching in that kind of 2-gram equivalent, that kind of same kind of grades that we're seeing in Los Ricos South. And now it's all about how many drills can we get on those targets and just drill off that exploration potential.
So what's the answer to that?
The answer is that we have one contractor there right now. We have a second one coming, and we're looking to have 8 drill rigs running here, hopefully in the next 45 days.
Excellent.
So,
excellent.
Yeah.
So what are you hoping
And
to be
I'll
able to
tell you-
deliver to us? What news, how quickly, what's coming down the line?
We have in the lab, or on the way to the lab, we have the next dozen drill holes from the Trini. We have just completed the second drill hole on what's called the Solomon Montefavor mine. That's one that really, if you look at that exploration potential, that target alone could have the same exploration potential as Los Ricos South, what we had there in exploration potential. Again, the term is tons. What's the width of that? What's the length of that? Assuming a depth, there's tons, and then we drill those tons. So that one alone, could have the same exploration potential. So now we're putting drill holes into that, and we're going to see what kind of grades come out of those tons. And in Trini as well, that's where we have 2 drill rigs going right now, and we're upping that to 2 more to get 4 on that. That's an area where it's just grid drilling. So as fast as we can drill it, Trini, get those results out, and we can get resources out. And that one we're pushing, it's a very aggressive goal, but we're pushing to have that target drilled by the end of this year, like finished, and be able to look and talk about ounces there. And, with 8 drill holes, 8 drill machines going, I mean, we're going to be fast and furious with drill results. And, every week we should have more and more drill results. So that's what we can look forward to. And we also, there might be a little more consolidation that we do as we move along here. I mean, we have almost everything in the district, everything in the core, but sometimes some opportunities will arise, small claims that maybe they have historical data, a whole bunch of data points that would be, again, easy just to jump in, get more rigs. Maybe it's going to be 10 rigs and just put a couple on that and grid drill it off.
Brilliant. I mean, I'm glad to see these numbers. They're sort of, what we expected. We want to see more data coming through, and I'm glad that there's going to be 8 drill rigs up there. That could be fantastic. So, look, I know you're short for time, so look, thanks for taking the call, making the time to speak to us. Do pick up the phone if there's more news from the lab. We'd be delighted to take that call.
Well, to everybody watching out there will be lots more news, and there's lots of excitement, and our team really, I've said it before, and this is, I really feel this, and the team feels this. This is the best thing for sure that I've had in 20 years. And time will tell. Maybe this is the best thing I've had in my career. So we're excited, and hey, just keep on watching those press releases. It would be great.